Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Julien Guerrier. I'm the director of the EASME agency, and I will be chairing the opening session this morning. I'm very glad to welcome all of you here in Brussels. Today, we have about 550 people registered, coming from over 30 countries. It's a huge success, and it's particularly satisfactory for us because if we think about such an event a few years ago, we could never have had such a success and such an interest. 5 years ago, we could have filled this room only if we had talked about financing for cars, for kitchens, home appliances, but certainly not for cities. So definitely, times are changing. It is evident that there is an emerging understanding of the value of addressing climate adaptation and energy efficiency nowadays among public authorities. The vast majority of you come from the public sector. I was talking about the agency, EASME. We are managing a number of programs on behalf of the European Commission. A number of them are particularly relevant to you. I'm thinking of Horizon 2020 in the field of energy efficiency and climate action, but also the LIFE program, and we have a few colleagues coming from that area, and of course also the Intelligent Energy program. The Intelligent Energy program is coming to an end. Its activities are being taken over by Horizon 2020. But it was instrumental in supporting the early stages of the Covenant of Mayors initiative, and I'm happy that there are a lot of results that can still be exploited today from that program. So 3 things I would like to underline before introducing our speakers this morning. The first one is that this event today is mainly for you to share your successes and your stories with other colleagues here, learn from the others, share your best practices, showcase innovative financing solutions that you have found for actual investment projects in energy efficiency, urban mobility, and climate resilience. You will have a lot of matchmaking opportunities organized during the day, so make the most of it. My second point is that when we see all of your projects, and I think at the end of the day you will be convinced of that, we can conclude that the energy transition is already happening today, and you are actors in that, across Europe, across the regions. And my third message is that for the first time today, we are organizing jointly the Covenant of Mayors and the Energy Efficiency Finance Marketplace, and I think that's very important. Over the next 2 days, this event will build upon and extend productive experiences from over 10 years of efforts. The Covenant of Mayors was launched in 2008. It has grown to be heralded by our commissioner, Mr. Arias Cañete, in charge of climate and energy, as the world's biggest urban climate and energy initiative. But the main challenge that cities and towns are facing in this area is actually to finance energy efficiency initiatives. So this year, I am particularly pleased that we have brought together the Covenant of Mayors with more recently launched EASME activities that bring together the world of finance for sustainable energy. We are joining forces with DG Energy and DG Climate Action to make the program even more compelling for you, and we're working already on the next phase. As you know, programs of the European Union are lasting for a period of 7 years, and we are in the phase of preparation of the next generation of programs post-2020. So this morning for the opening session, we have 3 distinguished speakers, whom I am pleased to introduce to you. First, we will have Mrs. Mechthild Wörsdörfer. She's Director at DG Energy in the European Commission, in charge of renewables, research and innovation, energy efficiency. Her directorate was in particular leading the preparations for the Clean Energy for All Europeans package. She will explain about that. And she will provide us also more information on the European Union's vision under the Energy Union, which is, as you know, one of the key political priorities of the Juncker Commission. We then have, at the far end, Mr. Julie Domak, Director of the Northwest Croatia Energy Agency and President of the European Federation of Agencies and Regions for Energy and the Environment. He's the board member of the Covenant of Mayors initiative, and he will give us the perspective of cities on financing energy and climate measures at local level. And then, closer to me, we have Mr. Joost de Klerk from Belfius Bank, so that will be the financing part. Belfius Bank has set up the Smart Cities Climate Action and Cluster Economy Program with the support of the European Investment Bank. It's a 800 million euro program that provides financial support to local authorities in Belgium. So he will talk to us about his experience and about details on this great initiative. I think we will have a very interesting introductory session, and I would like to ask Mechtild to come to take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julien, and good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here in a full room on this first combined event of Covenant of Mayors, Investment Forum, and Energy Efficiency Finance Marketplace. The Finance Marketplace already took place twice, but in this configuration of bringing together experts on energy efficiency, finance, and the Covenant of Mayors is a really new setting, and I'm very pleased that it works out and that we have a very interesting agenda today, and I will just give you a few introductory words. Tomorrow is the big event in the European Parliament. I guess some of you will be there as well on the Covenant of Mayors with our commissioners, vice president, president of the parliament, so this will be the big yearly opening. But today we are here to discuss more maybe practical details, bringing people together on experience made in the energy efficiency field. You all know that energy and climate policies are on the top of the agenda of the European Commission. We have the Energy Union with a resilient climate forward-looking policy, which we have set up a couple of years ago and which we are now implementing. One corner piece of that Energy Union is the Clean Energy for All Europeans package. It's something the Commission adopted now more than a year ago, and it focuses on three issues: energy efficiency first, renewables becoming the global leader, and third, bringing the consumer at the forefront of our decisions. I think on all those threes, we have put concrete proposals on the table to have an ambitious energy and climate policy. So one element are the 2030 targets. For example, we propose for energy efficiency a 30% binding target by 2030, for renewables at least 27%, and for greenhouse gases reductions minus 40%. Why do we have these ambitious targets? Targets are good to create the right framework, to know where the predictability, where investments should go, and it's clear that Europe has taken the position to go to a clean energy transition. In that sense, also cities and citizens, as I said, play a key role. We know that more than 70% of our people are living in cities, and that also 70% of CO2 emissions are taking place in cities, and that the adverse impacts of climate change are particularly high. And that's why the Commission, together with the Covenant of Mayors, is putting structures in place that help cities to meet these challenges and to turn them into opportunities. As I said, we are now working on the clean energy package, which will go in a crucial phase basically this week when we start our trialogues with the other institutions, European Parliament, Council, and the particular role of the presidency, the Bulgarian presidency, in this first half of the year. And we hope to at least finalize part of the package, which is starting with energy efficiency, governance, and renewables now, and will go further on the electricity market design. And this is important in the sense that it gives us the direction, but it's also coupled with other sectors. It doesn't cover only energy and climate, but there are also links, for example, to transport. Transport in cities are playing a crucial role. And the Commission is also working what we call on mobility, on e-mobility in particular. And we have proposals, for example, on cutting CO2 emissions for cars. Soon we will come with a proposal on cutting CO2 emission for lorries. So there is also a lot of combined effort and try to bring the sectors of energy, climate, transport together. And I think that is really also the focus of what can be done at the local and regional level in cities. So as I said, tomorrow is the big day for the Covenant of Mayors, and we have, under the Covenant of Mayors only, over 6,000 action plans which have been developed, and a great number of those projects have been implemented in many cities in a variety of fields. And if I had looked, for example, on today's, where we have showcased best practices from 25 cities, I can see they are all big, small, east, south, north, west. It's a good combination to cover and see differences, obviously, but also common lines and things we can learn from each other. And it's not only the biggest cities well known, it's also smaller ones in all places in Europe. And a number of projects, which is obviously interesting for us, have been implemented in the various fields of what we are discussing today, like energy efficiency, I spoke about it, renewables, local energy communities, which are developing, and we are encouraging the development of local energy communities also in our legal framework. It's about climate adaptation and urban mobility. So these plans and implementing these plans is good for climate and sustainability, but it's good for jobs, growth, and competitiveness. And I think this link has to be made, and that is also some beneficial on the air quality, on the health, and in general on quality of life. Let me take the example of energy efficiency. We can do a lot. When we had one of the key proposals of our clean energy package is about the energy performance of buildings directive. And this is the first one which is already basically done. It's adopted today in the European Parliament. There's a vote, a final vote on the energy performance of building directive. And then the next phase will be, it's formally adopted in a few weeks or months, the time it takes to publish it in the official journal, and then it will be implemented by the member states. And there's a lot of good concrete measures because buildings are 40% of the energy consumption. So the more we can do in all parts of Europe on making our buildings either smarter, more energy efficient. We have a couple of proposals in our EPBD, in our Energy Performance of Building Directive, where the member states now need to implement. So I think there is a lot of material we can do. And we have good examples. For example, for every €1 million spent on energy efficiency, about 20 jobs are directly supported in the energy efficiency industry. And the energy efficiency industry is very active. There's a lot of benefits for big, but also for small company in that area. And for each euro spent on flood protection, we could avoid €6 of damage costs. So there's a direct link for what we do on energy efficiency or related issues and jobs we can create in Europe. But the legal framework and the regulatory framework is one thing to ensure predictability, to ensure investments. But we still need the finance. And that is my third point today, that the financing of the energy transition and climate adaptation in cities, we need successful projects, we need investments, and we need finance. So the Commission has been putting in place a number of initiatives in that area. First of all, the Covenant of Mayors, which provides a unique framework for cities to manage the energy transition and meet the challenge of adapting to the adverse impacts of climate change. This is an excellent initiative and framework which is unique for cities. Secondly, we have imposed ourselves at the EU level that at least 20% of our EU budget is on climate-related projects. That means from 2014 to 2020, almost 200 billion euros are available via either regional or structural funds, and which are supporting the transition to a clean energy and climate-friendly future. We have also, and that is a big part, where partly I'm in charge of, is the Horizon 2020 program, which is our research program, and a big part goes to energy and climate. Here we have a target, a mainstreaming target of 35%. We are not yet there, but we are working on it, that this is also something we want to promote in research area, and EASME and others are very active in making these projects work, support this energy transition, this climate adaptation, in order to help that making happen. And a lot of those projects are already making now the difference and is helping Europe in its energy transition. So today is a good way that everyone learn from each other, and we try to replicate as widely as you can do in your own fields. But all we can do on the funding side from the EU is only a very, very small part. A lot needs to come from private investments. So we want to encourage, and that's one of the energy efficiency investment platform, we want to encourage private financing, which are key to realize our energy and climate goals. So we have a number of examples, and I will just quote a few of them. When we adopted our clean energy package, we also initiated a campaign on smart finance for smart buildings. As I said in the beginning, buildings are key in the energy efficiency and in the renewables area, by the way, as well, and we can do a lot. So here we work with the European Investment Bank to develop flexible energy efficiency and renewable financing platforms. And those are building on existing strands of financing like the European Structural Fund and Investment Funds and the European Fund for Strategic Investments like EFSI. We are also working with the EBRD, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, who has also a number of projects in the energy efficiency area and also a lot in the Central and Eastern European parts of Europe. We also encourage the marketplace of the European Innovation Partnership on Smart Cities and Communities, which can help cities with the financial engineering of their project. And last but not least, we have the Natural Capital Financing Facility, which finances and offers technical assistance for projects applying nature-based solutions for adaptation to climate change. So let me conclude. We have, I think, set up the right regulatory framework. There is a need for finance and investment. A lot has already been done, and today is a very good opportunity to showcase some of the most successful projects and initiatives through presentations, but also at the various stands which we have here on the first floor. And the idea is obviously also when you present your project to give some critical, what were the obstacles, what were the problems in the beginning, so others can learn from each other. So I hope that we can all learn something by the end of this event, and that we will bring and contribute best practices that successful projects can be replicated in other cities. So I wish you a very good day, fruitful discussions, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, Mechthild, thank you very much. As you see, the Commission has been extremely active on the climate action and energy front, on the legislative side, on the side of projects that are financed through programs such as Horizon 2020 and LIFE, and through mainstreaming of those objectives in our programs. Cities are at the heart of this policy, and rightly so. As you've heard, 70% of Europeans live in cities, and 70% of CO2 emissions are coming from there. So in this context, we are very glad to have Mr. Domak here, who will tell us about efforts put in by cities as the vanguard of the energy transition and the challenges that they face in terms of financing. Mr. Domak, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's lovely to be here in Brussels. Despite the simple fact that there is a snowstorm at home at the moment in Croatia, that's not the only benefit. So it's good to be here to discuss how to invest in sustainable energy. And I do have a lovely speech prepared by my colleagues from Federal Office, but I think I won't use all that clever sentences they wrote. If you noticed before, I'm actually the one with 3 hats on my head. I'm here representing the EU Covenant of Mayors Board. I'm representing FEDEREN, European Association of Regions and Energy Agencies. And I have really a pleasure to represent my own energy agency back home, Northwest Croatia, which works now for 10 years. So I would like to share with you some of my practical experience combined with some of the messages we at the EU Covenant of Mayors Board would like to deliver. So the EU Covenant of Mayors Board was established 1 year ago with a simple task to facilitate the dialogue between cities and regions and the EU institutions. And that's really important. We are speaking now about that big words, energy transition, evolution to clean energy, even revolution when we are speaking about energy union. But cities and regions are those who are at people, who are closest to the people, who implement the projects, who invest in infrastructure, who renovate the schools, public buildings, street lighting, and they are the real pioneers and the real subjects of energy transitions. Energy agencies are the real pioneers of energy transition. Indeed, when you think about energy transition, it's a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity for investments. This is why we are here. It's a tremendous opportunity for innovation. This is so much important. It's a tremendous opportunity to finally switch to low carbon economy and society. And well, in our everyday operation and all the noises we hear every day, it's sometimes difficult to understand what would energy transition really mean for Europe. Can you really imagine the Europe without being dependent of imported and fossil energy? That's a wonderful vision. That's a strong vision. This is what we people living in Europe forget sometimes. We forget sometimes how lucky we are, how privileged we are compared with other parts of the world. I had an opportunity 2 weeks ago to speak at the first Latin America Sustainable Development Conference, and it made me very proud to present what we are doing here in Europe, what I'm doing at home in Croatia, and to answer all their questions, how we organized our energy market, how we organized our institutions, all that things which we usually complain about. But think a little bit about it, how privileged we are. We are now facing another transition, a transition from using grants to finance our projects to switching to using more and more private capital. So that's another important step. And when this was my message to colleagues working in European institutions, when thinking about post-2020 financing scheme, think about catalyzing effect and political signal which European budget has. So getting the money from European budget, it's not just about getting the money, it's much more. This is how we change things at the regions and cities level. This is how we mobilize our own politicians to do more, to do different. And this is why we are here celebrating 10 years of Covenant of Mayors. I still remember times when we started, when my colleague Roman Dubrava, some of you remember him, was celebrating 1,000 signatories. Now it's more than 7,750, something like that. So that signal to all that signatories is important. And again, when we speak, and the lady before, I think, spoke very well about it, when we speak about that interaction between cities, regions, national governments, EU level, then we usually use that clever word, multi-level governance. Well, it's strange. So it's actually about working together. So something what should be most natural. So first we stop working together, then we invent clever walls, then we are going back and trying to work together. But this is really important, and we see that at the cities and regions level, how important it is to work together. In the afternoon, there will be plenty of examples, great examples how cities and regions did something ambitious, did something more than usual, but still we need to mobilize our cities to do more, to aggregate projects, to do something together with other cities, other regions to regions, one region from one European country together with another region from another European country. This is still our homework, the homework of the people sitting here in the room. And in that respect, I would like to give a message how important that PDA schemes are. PDA schemes like Elena, like Emily I, like few others. This is really what is needed and what should be supported in the future even more. I think that's important. It's great pleasure that one of the projects in the afternoon will be also a project from Croatia, a small country in Southeast Europe, Project New Light, which gathered 57 municipalities to do something together, to reconstruct and to invest in their street lighting. And that example and other examples from colleagues around Europe should motivate you to bring that message back home and to facilitate the change we would like to see. I'm really happy to have the opportunity to spend a day today with you and tomorrow at the European Parliament with many of you. And let's do that energy transition together. I think it's a great opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Domak, for this very strong message. The Covenant of Mayors has grown to a reference point in Europe, and actually globally, as you understood, and we can be proud of that, for cities to lead the way on delivering on the Paris Climate Agreement. In this context, there is one initiative of our agency that I would like to mention. It's Manage Europe. It's an initiative to support around 370 local and regional energy agencies across Europe. It has just been relaunched, and this afternoon we will be joined by 24 energy agencies that have just finished their first masterclass in this context. So I would like everybody to go and have a look at the website. There is a lot to learn from there. Now let's move on to our last speaker, who will tell us about an example of private finance available today to cities in Belgium. Belfius is a commercial bank, a commercial investor, which has responded to emerging needs of cities. And I think this example can teach us a lot today.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thanks for the invitation. I'm really proud that I can represent the banking sector, and it's not always very easy because the banking sector has not a lot of experience in financing energy efficiency. So, but I will try. I'm now three full years busy developing in Belfius Bank alternative financing solutions, and I will try to give you my first impressions about that. Mr. President, yesterday I had the occasion to give a workshop at Manage Energy Masterclass, so I found it a very good initiative, and you see that people are working together and giving their best class experience to each other, and that's really what we need, this cooperation, I think. So, a first point, I think that Belfius is one of the main banks in Belgium. We are a 100% state-owned bank, and what is maybe specific for Belgium is that we have a very strong link with municipalities, because before we were owned by the municipalities in Belgium. Afterwards, we were part of the Dexia group, and in 2011, the Belgian state bought the Belgian bank because of the banking crisis. But we are doing very well now, and the Belgian state is thinking about putting a part of the bank in the stock market. So, a first point, I think that the main banks in Europe has a lot of experience in sustainable energy financing. We in Belfius Bank, we have a project finance team, energy. We are almost in every offshore wind park. We are also financing onshore wind park. We have a lot of experience in financing solar energy. We did about 500 million euro of photovoltaic systems in Belgium. We have programs about green mortgage. We have green consumer programs. So I think that there's a lot of experience in energy financing. And we are also very proud that we could, together with the European Investment Bank, create two rather unique programs about financing smart projects, but also energy projects. The first project was already mentioned here. In 2014, we started the Smart Cities program together with the European Investment Bank. And there we intended to finance smart projects in three domains: energy, mobility, and urban development. In 2014, when we started that, a lot of people said to us, yeah, smart cities, that's really something for Amsterdam or for Barcelona. But maybe for the 589 municipalities in Belgium, they are too small to think about these huge concepts. Now what we see, and we are really proud of that we have financed today almost 1 billion euro in projects, in really smart projects, innovative projects in these domains. And what is more important, that these projects are part of a bigger plan. The sir from the Covenant of Mayors spoke about these action plans. These are not lonely projects, but they are making part of a bigger plan, and we are very proud also that we can sensibilize and stimulate our clients to do these projects. So we are now we are asking now the European Investment Bank for a third line, and yeah, for the moment the funds are used, so we are really attending the third line, but the European Investment Bank is very enthusiastic about that program. We did a special program, and that's rather new with European Investment Bank. We were the pilot bank in Belgium. Maybe someone of you have heard of it, of the private finance for energy efficiency. So that was an initiative, I think, by the Commission. The Commission gave a mandate to the European Investment Bank to facilitate finance for energy efficiency projects. We promised to the European Investment Bank to build a portfolio in 2 years of about 75 million euro. And maybe you will say 75 million euro, that's not a lot of money, but I can assure you that in energy efficiency projects, that is really an ambitious objective, I think. What is very interesting in that program, that we not only get a cheap funding line for the European Investment Bank, and this we transfer the benefit of this cheap funding to our clients, but what maybe is more important, that we got from the European Investment Bank a portfolio guarantee of about 80% for the financing of the projects in energy efficiency. And that's when we talk about finance of energy efficiency, I can assure you that guarantee is really an issue. Because when we are financing energy efficiency, most of the time it is in buildings. And what is happening, the asset that we are financing are becoming the ownership of the owner of the building. And so banks like to have a sort of guarantee on the assets. We don't have it here. And I can assure you, certainly, and maybe I could tell a word about Escrow Financing later. Certainly when we have third investors that invest, guarantee is very much an issue, and so we are very pleased that we have this portfolio guarantee, and it facilitates us really because we can easier give loans. It should still be good projects, but we can give loans where before it was more difficult. I told you about some finance programs with the European Investment Bank. That's very important. But I don't think that this is enough for the banking sector to boost really energy efficiency. What we see in the market is that financing, that's really the end of the program. Before a municipality or energy agency makes a program, I can give you maybe a good example. I had one of our public bankers had the director of a big cultural institution in Flanders. And he said, look, I have big buildings here, and they are not energy efficient at all. And he asked to the banker, what could you do for me? Should this banker speaking about PF4EE and say, oh, we have a good, cheap financing? No, that was not his problem at that moment. He would have the idea of the banker, how I have to deal with the fact that my building is not energy efficient. So I think if the banking sector will really be of help for this energy efficiency sector, then we really have to make one-stop shop solutions, integrated solutions that bring a total solution for our clients. We cannot do that alone. We have to make partnerships for that. We have to make partnerships with consulting companies, with engineering companies, with construction companies, with ESCOs, and then go with the global offer to our clients. For instance, in Belgium, we have a lot of schools that are really not energy efficient. When you want to do something for them, you don't have to go to them to say, look, we have a cheap financing. No, you have to come to them with a global plan. Some of them are really small schools and they don't have the know-how, neither the time and the budget maybe to deal with these kind of things. So we have a lot of work to do. When we, maybe last word about Escrow Financing. I'm a big believer of Escrow Financing and third-party financing, because what we see in the market in Belgium now is that almost all the projects about energy efficiency comes from third investors. There's really not a lot of companies, neither cities, that do this themselves. And that's good. It has a lot of advantages. Yeah, you as a city, you don't have the budget risk, you don't have the time risk, you don't have the maintenance risk, and maybe you don't have the know-how, and you can give that to parties who have a lot more know-how than you. But when we look to that from the bank, there's there are more big problems, but one of the big problems is that the amounts of these investments normally are rather low. I told to you that we have a project finance team, and they are used to deal with big projects. My colleagues, they begin to work when they hear an investment amount of 15, 20 million euro. In energy efficiency, we have projects 200,000, maybe 1 million. If all go well, maybe 3 or 4 million euro. So what does that mean? That does mean that we cannot handle this project as project finance projects. So that does mean that we have to go to a very good standardization of this kind of projects. If for each project of 300,000 euro, I have to ask to a legal advisor to analyze the contract, you will understand that the cost will be far too great. So we really have to go to a standardization, and I think that's very important. One of the other problems of this ESCO market is that I see that the ESCO are choosing measures maybe that don't allow a real deep retrofit of the building. They are really choosing measures that have a payback period, 7, 8, maybe at last 10 years. So there's a real need also to introduce the building sector and the construction sector in this ESCO market. Because when we only take the low-hanging fruit and don't insulate our buildings or replacing the glass or so, we really have a problem. I come to a conclusion. There's a really big potential. Belfius made a study 2 weeks ago where they published a study, and we see that public entities are only renovating 1% of their buildings, and we have a lot of old buildings in Belgium, per year. So it will, when we continue that, it will take 100 years, and I don't think, Mr. Worsdorf, that we can respect the ambitious objectives of the European Commission. There is a great potential and there is a need. And only when we work together with all the stakeholders, we will reach it. We have to work together with the public, we have to work together with the private sector, we have, of course, to work together with the finance sector. And maybe last but not least, and that's also important, we have to work together with the citizen. More and more, we see initiatives in which it's important to sensibilize the citizen. And I'm very happy that I see that also I think that people of WeScope are here somewhere, and I think that this is really important that we can also convince the citizen to participate in these projects. So Belfius wants to really invest in it. It's not easy, because my boss is always asking, yeah, but you want people, you want resources, but are you sure that next year or the year after you will have a good lending portfolio and that you will make profit? And then I say, yeah, I think that the market will boost. But then my boss said, yeah, you think, but are you sure of it? And I'm very happy that maybe when we are all working together, maybe we'll reach that, and then I will get the necessary resources to obtain this objective. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. de Klerk. This Smart Cities Climate Action and Circular Economy program is a model, and I'm sure that you will get a lot of people from the audience approaching you during the day with questions, and that your portfolio will explode. Now we have a few minutes for questions and answers to our speakers. Who wants to take the floor? There has to be a first one. Really no question? I know there is a coffee break afterwards, but yes? There is a microphone coming your way.
Hello? Yeah, it's just a question to the first speaker, if she's still here, yeah. In relation to one of the Horizon programs, you probably don't know the answer, but maybe you do, so I'll ask the question anyway, which was the Horizon 2020 retrofit to existing vehicles program to reduce pollution from combustion engines in cities. I believe the results from that program were due to be announced at the early part of this year, but I haven't seen anything on the website. So.
Thank you for that question. I know the program, but I don't know where we are with the results. So if somebody from the team but we will come back to you and let you know. And if the results are ready, obviously we will put it on the website. I know it's rather a successful program, but we have to double check. Thank you.
It's very kind.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Jakovljevic from Energy Efficiency Industrial Processes. We're talking about the cities today, and we talk about buildings. I just wanted to make sure that we think more than residential buildings, that we also think about investing in energy efficiency in the businesses and industries. This is a question for Mechthild and for Mr. Domets. If you can just reflect on this, please.
Well, I can only agree with you. Yeah, we do speak about residential, public, and commercial buildings, definitely.
I also agree. We focused from the legislative side in the past more on new buildings, but obviously the most important is the existing building stock. So the new Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, which has just been voted in the European Parliament, so it's done, is focusing on existing building, and here also again on residential, commercial, and private buildings. So I would fully agree.
Other questions? Yes.
Maybe it's a general question, Carlos Essa from Innova Room. When we speak about smart cities, I'm always puzzled by the opposite, not being stupid rural regions. And my question is, this kind of schemes, project development assistance, are in principle open to be used also to support clean and sustainable mobility and accessibility and energy in rural areas that are in vicinity of urban areas. Because there is a problem of a gap between the investment in the urban areas and the rural region falling back. So my question is, if this, in their experience, this kind of program are in principle or in practice open also to projects that involve more rural or peri-urban areas?
Yes, I see the colleagues nodding and saying yes, this is in principle open. Other questions? Yes?
It's Carlos Sanchez from Whitehall Capital. We are trying to invest in energy efficiency projects in cities, and one of the problems that we find is the same problem that Josep was finding, is that the projects are very small. So what's the best way to try to group a couple of projects, a couple of cities, and try to invest in like energy efficiency projects? Is it through the Covenant of Mayors? Is there like an organism in the European Union that can put together like cities to build synergies and build up scale? Thank you.
Well, I didn't hear the beginning of the question very well, but I think it's in general it's a very good idea to try to encourage our mayors to build that synergies and to do something together. And I would will try to combine the answer to your question to the question before, when the gentleman asked about the rural areas. I am a little bit annoyed with that term smart cities sometimes, because you get a feeling that it's just for very urban, very center of Brussels city, for example. In reality, and this is how it should be, and I think it is like that. Well, you can definitely use the European money in both areas, but in reality, it should not be a difference between rural and urban, especially in Europe. That smart city concept, it's actually a concept of smart society, and this is what I think that the Commission through the programs would like to implement. That's at least my understanding. And for my country, a smart city concept is actually a smart nation concept. And well, again, we are a small country in smart part of the world called European Union. So we should have the transition to smart smart Europe or smart European Union eventually. To conclude, definitely yes. Well, the mayors should work together, and my experience is that they do work together, even if they are different political options. I think they understand each other very well, and well, they have the mutual interest to work together.
Hello. Yeah, maybe. What's important, I think, for the banking sector, scale is really important. If you want us really to put up a specific solution for one group, you need scale. If you come with us, a school comes to us, we have a project of 200,000 euro. We won't set up a specific solution. If at regional or national, the federation of school is coming to us and say, look, we have here 100 schools and we have this program, then we will put together, we will sit together with them. And then also we could go eventually to the European Investment Bank or the European Investment Fund. Also they only begin to speak when you speak of 25, 30 million euro. So we really need scale, otherwise you, and is it easy? No. When I speak about schools, I know. Even when you have clustering, you have all legally different companies that has to sign, and the contracts sometimes are different, but I think that's the only way to do it. Yeah.
Just to add, I think on your question, it's clear that's the whole challenge of the energy efficiency finance, because they are often very small-scale projects compared to renewables or offshore wind installations or infrastructure projects in the energy area. We have big projects cross-border, and then we have a funding possibility or part co-financing and so on. The issue with energy efficiency, and that's why we were struggling for so long, is that it's a lot things, but very, very much small scale. So I would agree, the only possibility is to scale it up, to aggregate, and that's what we are trying to do, also with that initiative, Smart Finance for Smart Buildings. So to get together and for bank to invest, for whatever small, private or big bank or public banks, they need a certain mass critique, to scale it up, and that's what we are trying to do. And I would like to add one word. I think it's good not to have any definition of smart city, because otherwise we would spend hours and hours and trying to define it. What's behind, I think, that we are looking for innovative ideas, smart ideas, and I would fully agree that can be in a very small place, in a rural place, as it can be in bigger places wherever in Europe. So this idea of smartness is more about innovative, good ideas. It's the same for smart finance, for smart buildings, which is our title. It's more about innovative and being together, and that's the same concept also, to my understanding, for the cities.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We will have to conclude, but I see a last question, so perhaps we take that question and then we conclude.
Thank you. I would like to to remark a very important point. Particularly in France, there is a phenomena called desertification of villages. People leave village, go into large compounds near the cities, huge commercial centers are developed, and the villages are empty. And it's dramatic because the history of the country disappears. Now, one of the ideas to keep the people in the village is to have a delocalized, distributed energy production, i.e. the village produces electricity, heating, and the houses are sort of autonomous. Now, can the Commission and the Covenant of Mayors promote this activity? Because I believe it's very important socially and economically. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think it's an important point. I mean, we will always have centralized and need for grids and be connected. But there are a couple of opportunities where the citizen can become much more active, and it's happening. We call that prosumer. So producing their own energy, solar or a rooftop or whatever, and then use it or even eventually sell it. There are a lot of very good projects on that. And I think we should encourage it. And in our Renewables Directive, for example, we speak about local energy communities, which we want to encourage. It's something we have proposed in our proposal from the Commission, and which is now being discussed with the European Parliament. And I think on this one, they are supporting us, and with the Council of Ministers. So it's certainly a phenomenon which will grow, and we are supporting it, and both in the setting of the legal framework, but also with projects all over Europe. So it's a very good point, and I think it could help. There are many reasons why villages and people or young people tend to move to bigger cities, but that could be one way of having solutions at local level, and there are very good examples already happening right now. So thank you.
Thank you very much. To conclude this opening session, I think one of the strongest messages that came from all speeches this morning is that as regards the energy transition, we have to work together at EU level with local authorities, cities, public and private investors, citizens. And that's the whole point of the day today, for you to be here and be able to exchange with all interested actors. So now I'm moving to the next part of the agenda, the marketplace, and I would like to open it officially. What will happen from now on is that we have organized breakout sessions of 25 innovative projects that have concrete results, proposing concrete solutions. These projects have great stories to tell, so I encourage you to learn from them, to visit the various breakout sessions. There are 5 strands gathering these sessions, 5 thematic parallel strands, one on financing climate adaptation, a second one on urban mobility, a third one on energy efficiency in public assets, fourth one, home renovation, and the fifth one, innovative financing solutions. You have the details on the location and the timing in the program that has been distributed to you. I would like to ask for your understanding and flexibility. If there are some strands or some sessions that are full and you cannot access the room, then try to go to another one. All the sessions are recorded. They will be available, so even if you miss one, you can get access to the slides and to the records afterwards. Part of the marketplace is also the fair of project and institutional stands on the first floor that you can visit. You can talk there to a lot of representatives coming from very diverse institutions, such as the European Investment Bank, the European Energy Efficiency Fund, EASME, of course, with a stand with information on ongoing initiatives, programs, and funding opportunities in the Horizon 2020 Energy Efficiency Program and the LIFE program, the Covenant of Mayors Office, Smart Cities and Communities Initiative, and also DG Regio, Urban Innovation Actions. So I invite you to make good use of those opportunities, visit the stands, get as much information as you can, and engage with your fellow participants here. At the end of the day, we will meet again at 5:15 with a closing session here in the ballroom. We will have another set of excellent panelists to conclude the day from the public sector, from industry, from financing, and from research. And finally, we will have a networking cocktail at the end of the day and a possibility for dinner. The objective is really to build on what we consider is the front-running, climate-resilient, and most efficient energy efficiency community in Europe. Let's build on that, and I wish you a very fruitful and informative day today. Thank you again to our speakers, and have a good day.